Mae Muller is representing the UK on home soil. She's the first home act in the UK Eurovision for 25 years. Will she follow up Sam Ryder's second place finish, though, with I Wrote a Song? Will she write her way into the top five? Let's review Eurovision. So the UK may be hosting Eurovision again for the first time in 25 years, but we didn't actually win last year, of course, despite a very valiant effort from Sam Ryder securing an incredible second place finish. A tough act to follow, but Mae Muller is going to try and do it. She's sending the very upbeat, quite poppy, very radio-friendly I Wrote a Song to represent the UK on home soil. We can't play a clip of it for copyright reasons, so you're going to have to go and find on your own time. Listen to it after this. Watch our review first. What do we think of it, though? Emily, do you like the song she's written?
I do like the song she has written. It's very catchy. It's very poppy. Like you said, it's very kind of radio friendly. It's definitely kind of, a continuation of the BBC seeming to try with the UK's Eurovision entries. They stay teamed up with the same team that helped them get to Sam Ryder last year. So, it's clearly continuing a step in the right direction. I don't think it's going to do anywhere near as well as Sam Ryder. Maybe that's because he was such a kind of surprise factor as well that then this kind of becomes a bit more expected. But I do think it's a good song. It's very catchy. There's good kind of bits to sing along to. It sticks in your head. There's potential for kind of, some fun dance choreography there as well. But I think my main concern with it is that it does have kind of stiff competition in that kind of female commercial pop ilk, specifically from kind of Sweden and Israel, which are kind of arguably better female pop songs. So yeah, I mean, I like it. I'm not sure it's a kind of a winning entry, but obviously we probably don't want to host it 2 years in a row. So yeah, no, I don't mind it. It's nice.
You're definitely right about saying it sticks in your head. I mean, I listened to the initial reveal when they did it on Radio 2. It did not sound out of place in the slightest, which is pretty incredible for a UK Eurovision song. I mean, if you remember, 8 years ago was Electro Velvet. The first time I heard Electro Velvet, I cried out of shame. Like, it was awful. Smash cut to 8 years forward, and we're sending something that is not out of place on Radio 2, which is fantastic. And then on the second listen, I was already singing along to it. And that is quite impressive. To have something that sticks in your head that quickly it's no mean feat. And they've certainly done a great job with it. It's not the most groundbreaking song in the world. It's not lyrically the greatest thing that's ever been written. It's not going to win Ivor Novello prizes, but it does stick in your head. And my first impression of it is probably the most positive first impression of a UK entry for a very, very long time. I was immediately very impressed with it. Even more impressed than I was with Sam Ryder on my first listen last year. Whereas Spaceman, I sort of liked the first time I heard it. This, I was like, this is really good. And actually, that's what matters. Sorry, go on.
That's interesting. I mean, I think with Sam, I think Sam's felt quite different as a song, whereas this feels very kind of mainstream. So I think that's maybe why I'm kind of less kind of excited about it than I was about Sam's entry, because his kind of had the surprise factor, whereas this is like, oh, it's a good song, but how much more is there to it?
It was maybe the surprise factor because we hadn't had something quite that good representing the UK before. Maybe he's raised our expectations so much we're expecting something good. I mean, even before May was announced, the UK, after all the entries were being picked, was still in the top five with the bookies. So there is now a sense of expectation for the UK to do quite well. At the time of recording, I think she's 7th or 8th in the odds. So she is solid top 10 still. She's secured about 3 million streams on Spotify. So there is still a bit of hype going into this. I'm not sure, as you say, it's going to reach I don't think it's going to reach the heights of second place, basically, because this is the type of song that's quite difficult to stage. Generally upbeat pop female pop songs are quite hard to do. I thought Fuego was going to be next to impossible to stage, and they smashed it. Chanel, Slow Mo, they smashed it. Obviously, this isn't the type that it's not the same type of thing. Like a big dance break is not going to work with this, but they are naturally quite hard to stage anyway. So that's the concern. And of course the running order as well. We'll get onto that in a second. But what do you think out of 10, where would you, what sort of score would you give this? And how well do you think this will do in the final? Obviously it's performing last, drawn randomly, of course, quite either lucky or unlucky. Actually, that's another question as well. Do you think it's lucky or unlucky that it should be performing last? So just 3 questions.
So 3, right, I'll try remember those. So for me personally, I've given it a 7.5 out of 10. I quite like it. It's not groundbreaking. So that's kind of where it sits for me personally. In terms of how I think it'll do, I think we can hope for kind of mid-table. I think that's probably reasonable. I don't think it's going to be anywhere kind of near the heights of Sam last year. Although it's interesting that it's still kind of 7th or 8th in the bookies, so maybe it could be kind of towards the top end of mid-table.
But I mean, it's worth saying the UK bookies do often overestimate how well the UK will do. At one point, Surrey, in the final after she'd been stage invaded, Surrey was 6th favourite. So
and how did that go?
Yeah, she came 24th or something.
Yeah, so I mean, yeah, I think we can hope for kind of mid-table, providing that she kind of sings it and performs it well, and they don't give us some massive like trumpets on the staging or bomb it that badly again.
PSD from that one.
I know. But I was like, while I was saying that point, I was like, what was the third question again? I've remembered. I think performing last probably isn't a bad thing, because I don't think on its own, I don't think compared to a lot of the other songs, it would stand out in a kind of in the middle of the running order, basically. Whereas I think at the end, it's the last thing you've seen, and it's kind of probably, I get that some people might have probably like zoned out by then, but because it is the last one, they never tend to kind of stick the last song as something kind of dreadful that's going to do badly. So that makes me think it should do okay, and it's not the worst kind of placing. Worst kind of placing would have been if it was, somewhere between kind of like 6th and 12th, because then it's just, it's a blip in people's minds when you look back on the final. So yeah, should be all right.
Yeah, I mean, to follow up on that, I think I'm really in 2 minds. And as we said in the preview episode that we did at the very beginning of the series, it sort of really does depend on where Sweden and actually increasingly Finland get drawn. If they are going to do very well in their semi-finals, so if they get drawn second half, they'll be quite late, like 21, 22, 23, 24, that sort of bubble. And I think if either of those are very close to the end, which they probably will be, anything after that will sort of get blown out of the water. And the last time the UK performed last was Molly Smitten Downs, and she ended up coming 17th because the common limits were 2 before, and then San Marino and the UK afterwards were just, I mean, you'd heard the song you wanted to win basically by that point. People had just tuned out. So I think that might go against her. But this is a song that gets a lot of people singing along. And if you see in a nightclub, if you see at preview evenings, people sing along to this. So I think the ambience, whatever, in the arena and people singing along, and the fact that it's a very memorable, stick in your head type of song, I think might actually counterbalance that. So she might do all right. My expectation is she probably will finish mid-table. With a strong televote, she might finish bottom of the top 10. I think top 5 is not going to happen, unfortunately. I'm not sure the juries will go for it as a song that much. But did you get the 7.5?
Yes.
Yes, it's 7.5 from Emily. I'm going to give it an 8.5 because I do really enjoy it. And I was very impressed the first time I heard it. And first impressions really do count with me. So I'm really, really impressed with it. And I would like to see it do very, very well. Obviously, it's tricky because the home acts do often finish in the bottom 5. So I think this is among the better host entries in the past few years, surely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's something that we always kind of, apart from, like Italy
and Sweden 2016.
Yeah, it's essentially, this is this is a good host entry when normally, you know, I mean, if you look back to kind of Portugal, did they come last the year
They
they
came
hosted?
last, but that was Rob's, to be fair. That was a beautiful song. It just was too dark. But that's a really for another time. It's a lovely song, that one.
Yeah, and like the Netherlands when they hosted,
Yeah,
didn't do too well. So yeah, it's a decent entry considering that we're hosting as well and the reputation that we normally have at Eurovision. So yeah,
certainly nothing to be ashamed of.
exactly. But that's it from this episode. Feel free to let us know what you think, whether you agree or disagree in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel and click the little bell so you get notified every time we upload new content. But that's it for this episode. Thanks very much for watching.